I'm JR, and this is the Beacon Bit. Today we're reflecting on Isaiah chapter 43. We're in a series right now at the Haven Collective where we are talking about our core values. We're kind of reevaluating them and exploring who we are. We're calling it Unchurched because we're looking at the ways in which we are different from a lot of more traditional church models. And so today we're talking about our third core value, change. Change is one of those things that I think we're meant to associate with church. We talk about being born again or experiencing transformation. I think in our most optimistic moments, we think about how the church has been a part of positive social change, whether that was churches that were involved in the abolition movement and the suffrage movement or the civil rights movement. But these days, I know a lot of us really are struggling to believe that real change is possible. We look around and we see church after church after church persisting in ways that are toxic, that continue to harm people. We experience a difficulty to change in our own lives. We experience the same habits and the same sins that creep up again and again, and we wonder, can we really change? And to that, I just want to acknowledge real change is hard. That's the reason it doesn't happen so often. But here at the Haven Collective, we are a community of audacious hope. We believe that change can happen and that God invites us to be a part of it. And a big reason that we believe that is because even the fact that we're gathered for church is a miracle. And I mean that. If you think about it, Christianity is an evolution of a Bronze Age religion. It should have died out millennia ago. The vast majority of religions that existed in 2000 BCE don't exist anymore. We don't even know the names of most of the gods that people worshipped in history. And yet today, we still use a holy book that is a collection of books that were inspired by those very people that lived back then. And we are part of a long tradition, a long legacy of people who continue to believe and have their practices and their lives shaped by the religious experiences of these Bronze Age people. That's actually pretty crazy. There is literally not another example of a religion that has survived the way Christianity has, that evolved out of Judaism, which itself evolved out of something that a lot of scholars just call Yahwism, worship of Yahweh, because it was so different. And the reason that the religion that we experience today didn't just vanish the way so many others did is because it changed. If you go way, way, way back to the time of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or even some of those early kings like Saul and David, what they did looks nothing like what we do today. They met at temples, they offered sacrifices. It was this very building-centric kind of faith that wasn't really about having a personal relationship with God or really about changing the world in any meaningful way. It was about offering sacrifices and making sure that you had crops and healthy children and things like that. Once the Babylonian Empire conquered the nation of Judah and destroyed the temple, Judaism had to, or the religion had to change into now what we call Judaism. There's an amazing book called Why the Bible Began by a scholar named Jacob Wright. And he traces how essentially the reason we have a Bible today, the reason we have faith today that is connected in any way to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to David and Solomon, to any of those people, is because the scholars, like the person who wrote Isaiah 43, who lived in the wake of the exile, found a way to reimagine who God is. And you can see that in the text for today. When the prophet has God saying, I am doing something new, do you not see it? It's even now springing up. The Hebrew language there is calling to mind this small little shoot of a plant, like coming up out of the ground. And so the prophet is saying that there's all of this devastation and destruction around you. And what we want to do in times of crisis is return to the good old days, to go back to the way things used to be, to this mythical, romanticized past. But the prophet says we can't do that. If we want to survive, if we want to thrive in what's ahead, we have to attend to this new thing that God is doing. And that is exactly what our spiritual ancestors did. They created a radical new way to be faithful, the way that was based around a collection of books that we came to call our Bible, and more importantly, a community of people that replaced the temple and the sacrifices. And of course, then we see Jesus push that even further, and then Paul push it even further beyond that. And each successive generation of people who has followed in this tradition has had to reimagine what church looks like for a new age. We're in a similar spot. We are experiencing massive change, not only as a congregation over the past couple of years of this transition to the Haven Collective, but also in our personal lives, and of course also nationally and culturally, and even in our world. There's so much change happening, and our temptation is to do the same thing that those ancient Judeans wanted to do in the exile. We want to go back to when we felt safe, to when we felt secure. We want to romanticize the way things used to be and forget that they had their own problems then as well, that there's no such thing as a golden age or a perfect time. Instead, let's listen to the words of Isaiah, who says that God is doing something new that's even now sprouting up from the ground. Let's take time with our spiritual practices to clear away the clutter so that we can listen for the still small voice of God whispering and inviting us into this new thing. And let's ask what God is doing next, because the same God who preserved a people from Abraham all the way up to today is still alive and working with us. And I think Haven Collective is just getting started. I really look forward to our conversations in the Beacon this week. And until then, grace and peace be with you.